All righty. How are ya?
Hello, Crystal. I am doing just ducky.
Wait,
Just ducky. What is
just
that?
ducky. That was my phone. I was turning it off and I hit the button to turn it up. I am good. A little tired. This morning was my first. We are back for biz camp for the second cohort. So I've
Yeah,
been up since 6 o'clock this morning.
man, you do burn like all kinds of ends of candles and stuff.
Yes, I do. I do. So I'm trying to stay awake. So I have to get something to make that happen.
Oh, okay. There you go. There you go.
hmm How are you?
I am doing well. I'm excited about our little show that we have today. We're going to finish up, I guess, 6 through 10 or 6 through 11 of those questions that we had. That's going to
Okay.
be pretty cool. And it was a good weekend. The sun is shining. We don't have problems like those folks on the Northeast do. Oof. So God bless you if you're living out there.
In,
You
in,
got
in addition
rain.
to heat problems, they got all kinds of other problems.
Man,
All I say is I'm very happy to be living in the state of California. That's all I'm gonna say.
we do have that sunshine tax, but days like today, it's kind of worth it. I think I was just outside today. We had a high of 73 or 75 or something like that. And that's
Yeah, I
not
think
bad.
when
It's
that's
not bad.
not bad. Yeah, I think I was 80 when I was driving in the car to come back home.
Okay. Well, you live up there in the hot spot. I'm down.
Yeah, a little bit hotter than you are. It's a little cooler down in Orange County. I was in your area though for 4th of July.
Oh, really? You should have
hmm
stopped by. I wasn't
I
there.
know, huh? I was at friend's house, so a friend's. Came down on the Monday for the Tuesday, and then
Cool.
I came back on the Tuesday.
There you go. There you go. Good
hmm
for you. Good for you. I hope it was a good
hmm
fourth.
It was an excellent fourth. It was excellent fourth. I stayed at the two Monday night. I stayed at the Marriott Banyo in Irvine,
Oh,
and
wow. You do well. Okay.
uh,
Yeah. Okay.
and then I was at my friends. They're in Irvine.
You know, you should have let me know that you were going to stay there. I could have run on by. But also, they have, I don't know if we should say it like this, but they have a lovely speakeasy there. But you
Oh,
have to
do they?
know. Yeah, you got to know where it
Oh,
is.
it's at the top of the thing. Is it at
No,
the
no, no.
top?
That would be
Oh,
like so easy.
oh, so it's hidden within the
Yeah.
building,
And
huh?
they call it speakeasy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Next time I'll let you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Oh,
You
cool.
ready to get started here?
I am. I am.
Okay. How about if I read your bio first and then we'll jump in. Is that
All
okay?
right. Sounds good to me.
Okay. Here we go. Everyone, please help me welcome back to our show my friend and colleague, Crystal Mitchell. Crystal is a business coach and consultant. She's the CEO of Mitchell Business Solutions, a co-director of Recycling Black Dollars. She's also the co-host of The Business Zone with Crystal and Gilbert, a weekly online radio show. She's an instructor at Mount San Antonio Community College, a certified network for teaching entrepreneurship instructor, and a QuickBooks Pro Advisor financial strategist. Hey, Crystal, how are you?
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good deal.
Glad to be here.
Oh, I'm so glad you're here. So glad you're here. So, like I said, we've got the last of these questions to go through, and they're a little juicy. So, I'm really kind of interested in talking about them.
Okay.
So, the first one um, is about RMDs, required minimum distribution. As you know, when you reach 70 and a half, well, at least back in the day, now it's 72 when you reach 72, and that age is going to increase till
Mm,
eventually it gets to be 75. But right now it's 72. That is when you reach that age or 6 months before that age, you'll have to take what's called a required minimum distribution. Now, a lot of people get all out the bag when they hear that because that they're suggesting that the government is making you pull money out of your plan and that they're going to tax you on that. And that is absolutely true. The government is making you take money out of the plan and they're going to tax you on it. However, it's usually a very small amount. And most people, most people that I talk with are already taking out enough so that they don't have to. But there are a couple of interesting little quirks to the required minimum distribution, and we've talked about them. One is if you're still working for the same company. Now, let's say, this is not you own the company, but if you
Mm-hmm.
still happen to be working for the same company and you reach the age of 72, then you can elect not to take your required minimum distribution. So it's,
Ah.
yeah. So as you know, I started out my career in the 403B world, and we talked about sort of started out. I got into the 403B world. And, um, uh, lots of professors that I would deal with were, still teaching into their 70s and sometimes
Mm-hmm.
even their 80s. And
Yeah.
so they didn't want to take that required minimum distribution. So they would just roll their assets into their current plan so they didn't have to do that.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah. So you can do that. Now, here's the deal. Most people get really upset. And like I was saying, they only want you to take a small amount out, but it does increase every year until you reach the age of 100. Once you reach the age of 100, it levels out. You still have to
Okay.
take the money, but it doesn't increase after you reach the age of 100. So that's your goal, is to at least get to 100 where you can not see your RMD increase. Okay, little 403
100.
100.
I wonder if you're even in your capacity to know that it has decreased.
You know, you know, nowadays it's not as much as a it's not as much of a, I guess, what do we call it, a far-fetched idea as it used to be.
Yeah,
People
that's true.
living
That's
longer.
true. I have a neighbor that's 85. You would think she was 45.
There you go. There you
Mm-hmm.
go. Okay, so the question is, and I'm just reading them as I got them. I'm not going to edit them. The
Okay.
question is, can I take a RMD, pay the taxes on it, then reinvest the balance in a Roth IRA? All right. So I don't
Mm.
know if you heard me talking about this, but this is very similar to what we used to call the backdoor Roth.
Mm.
Backdoor Roth. That's a situation where a person is still working. So let's say they are 60, they haven't retired yet, and um, they make too much money to contribute to the Roth IRA, but they can convert. Right? They still make enough money. They don't make too much money to convert their traditional IRA to a Roth IRA. So what that person would do is they would make their contribution to their 401k.
Mm-hmm.
They would do that in a pre-tax way, and
Mm-hmm.
then they would um, make a take that same money and what we call an asset transfer to their traditional IRA, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then they would convert those monies to a Roth IRA. And eventually, and then in that conversion is where they would pay the taxes, or
Oh,
where they
okay.
would assess the taxes. So we see people do that. We call it the backdoor Roth. And we see people do that, especially in times where the stock market isn't doing very well, or when they missed the stock market not doing very well, reduce their tax liability. But in this situation, the answer is yes. You can take your required minimum distribution, pay the taxes on it, and then reinvest that balance in a Roth IRA, depending on your income, of course. But
Okay.
that's a very, very common thing to do. So, yes. Okay, the next question is, if I have several retirement accounts at 60 years of age, should I consider consolidating them into one to minimize fees? Pretty good question. Do you run into people? I run into people often that have multiple 401ks and um, multiple IRAs. They want to make sure they're not putting all their eggs in one basket, so they get a couple of different IRAs, a couple of different 401ks. Have you run into
Mm-hmm.
people like that?
I would imagine if you worked at multiple companies
Mhm.
over a certain period of time and you didn't move it over into a Roth, right? There would
Sure.
be many people with multiple But I wonder if they even know they have those other multiples, especially if it was like in their early careers, right? In
Uh-huh.
their first, up until you're about 35, 40, you may have worked 10, 15 years at a company, didn't even know you were investing because you were so young,
Yeah.
and it moved around and did not know you could move it.
Yes. You're absolutely
So,
right.
right?
Mhm. Yeah, you're absolutely right. We get that. We run into that issue quite a bit. Usually it comes under the guise of, I worked for this company and I think I had a 401k there. I don't know though, but I do get statements in the mail. Okay. What do those statements say? I don't know because I don't work for that company anymore. So I don't really know. Oh,
Right, exactly. And also if they moved,
yes.
then they wouldn't be getting those notices in the mail.
Yes. Yeah. And we
Mhm.
often see that in the situation where someone says, so I moved from Atlanta to Dallas and I stopped getting mail from XYZ company. Oh,
Mhm.
really? Yes. And so I just kind of forgot about it. Well, you probably have a 401k there, and they've probably been trying to connect with you ever since they found out that you left, and
Mm.
you may have some money there. Yeah.
Mm.
And I think I told you the situation with one of my colleagues where that person had a 401k at an organization and moved around quite a bit. And, while they were working, they were making such good money, they really weren't worried about retirement. And so once
Mhm.
they retired, that now, of course, they have the required minimum distributions that they need to pay. And the problem with required minimum distributions, I'm not exactly sure now, but if you don't take it, the penalty is half the required minimum distribution,
Oh,
which,
wow.
yeah, exactly, right? It is not pretty. So this poor person, at first they figured that the large insurance company that had their 401k assets was ripping them off by trying to keep their money, which is not true, not true at all. And then they figured that the government was trying to keep their money, which is not true. This particular organization had reached out to this person every time they left a forwarding address, which was never. And so
Okay.
when the mail came back to that person undelivered, they thought, well, we're not going to send personal information to a mailbox where the mail comes back undelivered. Whether somebody's living there, and then they find out what's going on with that person, right? How much money
Mhm.
they have, and then we have someone that's going to try and hack us, and we don't want that.
Right.
So they stopped sending mail. So this person was a wee bit older than myself, and so they had um, they had quite a bit of money saved up, and in actuality, what had happened was the um, the insurance company that had their monies had actually given that money to the state. Have you ever seen those ads where you'll see something that says claim hundreds of thousands of dollars of unclaimed money that
Mhm.
happens
Mhm.
to be yours? Okay, so um, that's exactly what happened to this guy. So we were number one. It took us a while to figure out where his money was because, of course, this happened some time ago, and I'll be honest with you, I did not try to figure out where this money was, but my associate did, and she did a great job. Once we got her, once we, all right. So I told her how to find the money. So once she
Okay.
did that, she found the money, and
She
then
did the research, huh?
she followed the trail and
Okay.
figured out where the money was. It was in one of those places, right?
Mhm.
And once she told the gentleman that, and once um, she told him that, big sigh of relief, and she says, "I'll just help you get it." And of course, the fellow said, "No, you've already done enough work. There's a
Mm.
company out there for 30 to 50% of the assets that are there. They'll just go get it for me." And my colleague was like, 30% of your assets? Don't do that, right?
Ah.
And then I let her know that he had probably not taken his required minimum distributions for a number of years. So the chance that he was going to be able to put his hands on that money without severe tax consequences are pretty slim. So
Mm,
of the $80,000 that he had there, which is no small chunk of change for most of the girls I go out with,
mm-hmm.
he probably got, I would say, less than 50,000 of it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
Just because he had never filed the required minimum distribution, there were all those back taxes
Ooh.
on those required minimum distributions that he was supposed to. So you still have to pay the taxes and the penalty. So
And the
the penalty is
penalty.
half, and then you owe the taxes on the half that you're supposed to get. That
Mm-hmm.
adds up.
Yeah, it does.
That does.
Penalties always add up.
Penalties always add up.
Mm-hmm.
So don't do that. Okay. So the question though is, after going through all of that, if I have several retirement accounts at 60 years of age, should I consider consolidating them into one account to minimize fees? So the answer to that is minimizing fees. People will tell you a lot, but the fees that folks generally pay in a 401k plan or 403b or 457 plan are
Mm-hmm.
generally pretty low. I mean, it's not,
Mm.
you're probably not going to get too better of a deal there.
Mm.
But what we do see is that most people manage the plan that they're in, or they manage the plan that they are in last. And so, if you've talked with your advisor and you know what your risk tolerance is, and that's the way you're investing your money, often we see that people will only focus on one account or one IRA, and they've got those other ones out there. They're just sort of flailing in the wind, and
Mm.
they're not managed at your particular level of risk tolerance. So I would say, just for ease of operation and to make sure that you're in the right space, it's good to roll them into one plan.
Mm.
I would say, if you are the kind of person that likes having different kinds of managers, because you can get well diversified inside of one plan if you really want to. But if you like having different companies like that, like
Right.
insurance companies, different companies, I don't want to name names just in case they want to shoot me. If you have different companies, then and you manage them to the point where they look the same as your questionnaire does. So
Mm-hmm.
if you're a balanced person, they're all balanced, and you manage that. If you're that and you want to do that and you do that, then great. Most people we know don't do that. So
Mm.
it's better for most people to put all of their eggs in that one basket and diversify it in that one company, that one basket.
Mm. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense though, because if not, you're gonna lose track.
Right. And
Right.
instead of getting one statement, you get five that you need to deal with.
Right. And the closer you get to that age, although I mean, if they keep moving the age up, we'll be 100, and I don't think we'll need our retirement.
Maybe. Maybe. Maybe.
Gone from 65 to 72, then possibly 75. My goodness, what do I need it for now, man? I'm on my way out this door. what
Maybe.
what's happening in between?
There you go. There you go. Right. Talk about, I like the way you phrase it, your second chapter. Well,
Yeah.
now if you can retire at 75, wow, you've actually got room for definitely a third chapter in there.
Yeah, you do. Yeah,
You want to
well,
live
some
to
people
100.
do. Some people are doing extremely well. Then this is the final quarter,
Uh-huh. Yeah. Right.
final quarter of the game. They doing their thing. So yeah,
Mhm.
some traveling, making their money. What did one of my colleagues, one of my friends and colleagues, she says she has a revenue stream for every financial obligation that she has.
Mm. Cool. I like her.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
So everything has a revenue stream. If it comes into her orbit, it then has a revenue stream.
Cool. I like that.
Mhm.
That'll
Mhm.
work. I like that
Yeah.
a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I need to I need to do that.
He's like, oh, that's a good idea.
That's a good idea.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I like that. That's cool. Okay, there's a part B of this question.
Okay.
And it says, is it harder on my children to consolidate and get all my accounts together once I am deceased? I think that's the way that should be
Mm.
said there. Is it harder on my children to consolidate and get all my accounts together once I am deceased? And I've actually never had that question before, but I'm going to go out on a limb and say, yeah, because they're not you, right?
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
unless you have the proper paperwork in place at all of those accounts where that person can um, easily move your monies to where they need to,
Mhm.
or you make a beneficiary of you make a trust a beneficiary, and you make that person a
The administrator.
administrator, thank you, of the
Mhm.
trust, then I would say, yeah, you're kind of putting people at in a rough spot um, uh, when you're deceased if you're not making it so it's easy for them to get there. And just having it there is not enough. There is something you need to do with regard to beneficiaries uh, and and people who run the trust. So
Yeah,
yes,
that's
yes,
really really important because of the fact that um a lot of families don't discuss finances, and so they have no clue where to look. Nothing's been set up or set aside, or at least the information, the passwords, all that sort of stuff. Nobody knows that you're the administrator or the designated individual. So that happens all the time when people are when their parents or someone in loved ones um, leave this earth. The people afterwards are trying to scramble to try to figure out how to close out those accounts.
right, exactly right, exactly
Hmm.
right. Okay,
Only
so
one that I know that get their money is the Social Security. If that check comes in past that date and that account's still open, they getting their money back. They ain't no question. And it's a either between, if you die between the first and the 10th, then they pull it back. But if
oh
you
my
die,
gosh,
if you die latter in the third or the fourth week or something, then it stays there, assuming that you still using it. But if you die, I remember my mom died on this 5th of May,
hmm.
5th or 3rd or 4th or somewhere around there. But her check would come in usually the 2 days before it came in, and the day after we reported her death, it was all back out.
Oh wow,
Social
wow,
Security don't be playing.
wow. That's wow. That's quite the network right there.
Mm,
That's
yeah, so if no other governmental agency is on point, Social Security is.
wow. That is incredible. Oof.
Yeah.
Mhm, okay.
By the time we put her in the ground, it was all back. They they had gotten it back.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so that's the only one I know that's that efficient. Efficient.
Yeah, I hear you.
Hmm.
Okay.
All right, next question.
Number 9. When is making a trust important, and what are
Mm,
the advantages of setting up a trust?
mm,
So, when is making a trust important, and what are the advantages of setting up a trust? And you get a bunch of different answers for this question because you can do what you need to get done in a trust, some of what you can get done in a trust without having one. But in general, if you have significant assets and you want a way to direct them to go to a particular place, a trust is a great way to go. You can avoid the you can avoid the hassles of your monies or assets being in probate if you put them in the trust. The problem is you can't avoid taxes. You can't just say, "Oh, I'm going to put this in the trust and avoid all the taxes." Taxes are going to have to be paid.
Mm-hmm.
But it is easier for your loved ones or your trust beneficiary person to lay their hands on the money and to direct it to where they need it to go. So if you want to um, make sure that your family members don't suffer trying to get at the money when they need it, then the
Mm-hmm.
trust is a great way to go. So I would say a large amount of assets, and if you need to control who's going to get the money and where that money is going to go, then a trust is very important. The advantage of that is you get to put your will out there, right? You get to get
Mm-hmm.
done what you want to get done. And so if you have a family member that's not very trustworthy, this is a way to put some boundaries on them getting the money and that kind of thing. So that's when the trust is important, I would say.
I completely agree because I don't know what happens to the people when there's death in the family. Everybody loses their minds, and all kinds of crazy shenanigans go on.
Yes.
Families break up,
Yeah.
family members get sued, all kinds of stuff happens. Lawyers are in it and burning up the money that you have. So I say trust really outlines and protects the asset, and it can be done exactly the way the person envisioned it to be.
There you go. You know,
Hmm.
this idea that we should control things from the grave is kind of an interesting one, I think.
Right.
Most people who have a history of things being passed through their family, they tend to think different than that. But um, I would say that if you do need to control what's going to happen to your assets, belongings, what have you, then a trust is a really good thing to do. And I would say, I think I've said it on this show before, that love looks different now than it used to. I mean, there was a time when, you could just leave stuff in the shed, and once you passed away, your eldest son would get it and start hoeing the garden the way that
Mhm.
you used to.
Mhm.
Now we still have sheds, but they have cars and things in them, and not
Mhm.
everybody has a garden to hoe, So
Mhm.
things are different. So love looks differently.
It definitely do. I have a friend. I have several people right now going through the aftermath of the death of a parent.
Mm,
It is not pretty at all. I mean, I would imagine out of the two people that I know of personally that's going on, there will be a major break in their family over this,
mm,
permanently damaged. So
very sad.
yeah, so yeah, if the parents or the loved ones actually put that into writing and put that into a trust and really prior to that had a discussion as to what's going to happen, then it wouldn't be such a shock on the other side, I guess, for those who
Right,
feel that they were more entitled than someone else.
right, right,
Hmm.
right. Yeah.
Yeah, so trusting a trust is valuable to maintaining the just even the thread. If there's a thread of problems in the family, I can guarantee you it's going to be completely destroyed.
Mm, yeah. I don't even know what to say to that except, yep, that's pretty much it. What she said. Yeah, that's it. That's it. That's it in a nutshell.
Yeah, and on top of the fact is just other things can happen too that if you don't protect your assets.
Right. Exactly.
Hmm.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
That was number 9. We're heading down to number 10.
Okay.
Number 10. Number 10. When should I pull out my 401k balance from my company plan after I retire and move out of the area? So the question is, when should I pull out my balance from my company plan after I retire and move out of the area? Okay.
Isn't retiring the process of where it all gets kind of activated anyway?
Well, I think they're asking, should I pull the money out of the profit sharing, the 401k plan? Should I pull the money out before I move, or should I wait until after I move to pull that money out?
Mm.
Right? As many people feel that uh, that if you have a 401k in, let's say, Texas, then
Hmm.
it doesn't apply to the laws in Georgia. There may be different 401k laws there.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah. So should you take it out now so that it's not in the 401k, or leave it in the 401k so that it'll stay in the 401k and you can do with it what you want? So it's sort of a tricky answer because there's a couple of things going on. Right? Most states pretty much stay out of the 401k business. You're going to get taxed. They like to collect those taxes. But with
Hmm.
regard to handling the plan and the money, they don't really get too involved with that. So you really don't have to worry about different states requiring you to do different things with that 401k plan. Okay, so that being said, when do you pull the money out? Right? Well, you don't have to pull the money out depending on how much is there. If you have more than $5,000 and you like the way these people manage your money and you don't need quick access to it, you could leave it there. That's okay. You could leave it there.
Mm.
But if you're going to be living on it, then yeah, putting that money in a IRA is a good thing. We just want to make sure that you don't touch the money, right? Whatever you do, you can roll it over into an IRA, which I encourage, or
Hmm.
roll it over into your new company's 401k. But the deal is, we want to use the right terminology. We want to use that terminology of roll over. And the reason we
Mm.
want to roll the money over is that that is a non-taxable event. That's an
Right.
event you can do and not be taxed. So if you were to, and I think we had a "Don't Be That Guy" um, situation on one of our shows earlier, if you don't want to be the person that takes their money out the last day that they're working, they take the
Hmm.
money out and they put it in their checking account, and they just want to wait till they meet a financial advisor to understand where they're going to put it and how they're going to collect their dividend. Okay.
Hmm.
That is a very bad idea. Very bad.
Yeah.
Because once you take that money out of the 401k, unless you've rolled it into an IRA, you're going to pay taxes on all the money that you pulled out.
Mm.
And depending on how much you pulled out, that could be 30% of the 401k.
Wow.
It's just grim, right? So
Yeah.
So you want to work with your 401k in that you can pull it out without having to pay penalties and without having to, well, you're going to have to pay the taxes eventually, but without having penalties there.
Mm.
Okay. Um,
Okay.
so we definitely want to pull the money. Oh, so when it comes to when should we pull the money out, you want to, let's not say pull the money out. Let's not say
Let's
it.
roll it
Past
over.
that. Let's use the proper terminology. And so, one word we want to talk about is the roll over. I roll assets from my 401k into my IRA. We like that, right? No tax
Hmm.
liability, generally no cost. And now you're separated from your company and you can deal with this IRA custodian. And hopefully, you rolled all of your other assets into that same IRA as you were going through the workforce. That's number one right there.
Mm.
That's the daddy. The other thing
Okay.
is, if you have more than $5,000, you can't be kicked out of the plan. So if you really like being in the plan, or you're just tired, as long as you have more than $5,000, they can't kick you out of the plan.
Ah. Okay.
Yeah, which some people that works well for. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. So that's the way that goes. Any questions about that?
Uh-uh. Mm-mm.
No? Okay, you're good.
Mm-mm.
Okay. Um, the next uh, um, the next question was, if I worked my whole career in a state that had state income tax withheld on my retirement contributions, but am now living in a state that does not have state income taxes, how do my withdrawals get affected by both states' income taxes?
So we saying, so state of California, I live in state of California, and this is the state tax that I pay annually, right? Or if I don't have any deductions that can minimize that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then I move to Nevada or Arizona or Washington State, and they're no longer withdrawing that. I'm at the same company, I assume.
Could be.
Okay. So,
Doesn't have to be, but you could be.
well, it seems to me that would be well, because they're no longer pulling that out, you actually can increase your you can increase your retirement match, right? By that amount. Could you do
Your
that?
retirement match?
I mean, if they at one point was pulling out that, because this is coming from their paycheck. I'm assuming this is what they're talking about, right?
Right.
So the money that is pulled out from their paycheck. So now I move to a state that's no longer moving that. I'm in the same retirement plan, so which means I got to work for the same company, so to
In
speak,
general, yeah.
in general, right? So they're asking how is that affected? Is that the question?
Yeah, it is kind of a wee bit convoluted.
So there's a
I
lot of
think I know what you're saying there.
there's a lot of he didn't tie up all the little, they're not tied into a pretty little knot, so we had to
Yeah,
put it in a pretty little knot, because
yeah.
if you moved and you went to another company, then you're no longer in that, well, you that retirement plan is still there, but you're not necessarily contributing to it, right?
That's true. You do have to be employed by the organization to contribute to the 401k plan.
Okay, so that's why we had to tie that little knot, that they
Yeah,
still at the same company, just in a different location that is
yeah.
no longer pulling out state taxes. So could you increase, if you were doing a match contribution, could you increase that? Could you increase your amount by the amount that you are accustomed to having pulled out from your state?
Well, the first answer is yes, but the second answer is kind of, sort of. Can I do it that way?
Okay, kind of, sort of.
Because
Explain, Willis.
because a person doesn't do a match contribution. Only a company gives.
All the other companies matching. So this is my contribution.
Yeah. So your
Okay.
contribution is going to stay the same, let's say, or it could go up, right? Because you're not having taxes come out. So you could say, well, since I'm not having taxes come out, instead of putting 4% away, I'll put in 5%.
Yeah, right.
I no longer have state taxes, right?
Okay.
And consequently, the other thing, your company has a match policy. So, however, things are going to fall within that match policy, if you have the standard safe harbor plan, which is your company matches 100% of the first three uh, that you put in, that you contribute, they match that contribution, and then 50% of the next 2% that you contribute. Then, because you have moved to a state that doesn't have state income tax,
Right.
now you may be able to put in, instead of 5%, maybe you can put in 7 or 8%. You don't get matched on the 7th or 8%, but you can put that money in. You still get matched on the first 5%.
Okay.
That doesn't change.
Okay.
So your answer was yeah, kind of, sort of. Yeah,
Okay.
that happens.
Okay.
And then the question is, okay, I spent my whole life in Texas, and I've just moved to Georgia. Since Georgia has a state tax,
Mm.
how is that going to affect my withdrawals, right? Can I withdraw the same amount of money?
A new state with different state laws.
Yeah, which state tax law do I fall under?
Mm.
Still under the Texas law because I've made this money and contributed this money in Texas. Am I under their tax law? Or since I
Mm-hmm.
live here, I guess this is backwards. So I made the money in Georgia, let's say. Am I bound to their tax law? Or if I move to Texas where they have no state income tax, am I free to not have to pay that tax? And the answer to the question is yes, you are. Wherever you happen to be, wherever you happen to live, that's the tax liability that you have.
Mm.
So we find this most interesting when we have a person that is here in the US and they leave and they go to Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
So can they even get their money in Mexico?
Mm.
Right? Can they get access to their money in Mexico? And
Ah.
then what kind of taxes are they going to pay then? Well, the answer to that question is of course you can get access to your money because we have this amazing thing called the internet and the telephone where you can either call somebody and say, "Hey, send me some money," or you can go online on to the website of the whatever company that is,
Right.
make a distribution request, right? And they'll send it right to you. So we can do that. You don't have to worry about staying in the same country. So
Mm.
that's where we see most of that. And so but where this gets kind of tricky, and I think this might be where we're at is if you leave the country, which taxes do you pay? Most countries have what they call some type of reciprocity agreement to where you don't get double taxed, right? So I've never seen a situation where a person had to pay taxes here in the US and then had to pay taxes again in Uruguay. So it's good to get an accountant and
Mm-hmm.
work that out as to
Mm-hmm.
where you're going to pay the taxes. But rest assured, you only have to pay the taxes once.
One
One,
time.
one
One
time.
place. Okay. For one place actually.
Exactly.
Okay. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Good questions.
Yeah, pretty cool. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Because I don't know if people. I was reading a post the other day where people were, there are people very dissatisfied with California and feel that the grass could possibly be greener on the other side.
Mhm.
And when they've gone to those other states, they found that they didn't quite do their research. And so certain things they realized was far more
Okay.
outside, far more in the fact that it didn't even balance out. Sometimes you could make that change, right? And this may be higher here, but this is lower enough here that it balances. And no, and a lot of times these decisions they make is up here and
Ooh,
down here,
yeah.
and then they're like, oh, I gotta go back, man, I gotta get back there because
And it's
this
tough
was
to
a
come back.
this is a bad mistake.
Oh,
Yeah,
so
it's tough to come back. It's tough
yeah,
to come back.
that midnight train to Georgia, you
And
know.
sometimes it derails along the way back to
Yeah.
Georgia. You're like, oh, what did I should have did more research.
Mhm. There you
But
go.
that would be one of those that you would have to research. And you need to be asking questions and not, some people just get a word of mouth. Somebody else said they did this, but you don't know all their nuances, and their nuances may not be yours. So you're going to get affected differently.
Most definitely. Most
Hmm.
definitely.
Yeah, so I've read that a lot lately where people made that jump, and
And
especially
tried
during
to
the
come back?
pandemic. Yeah, they made the jump leaving during the pandemic, thinking California was horrible because political things wasn't in alignment with theirs, and
Yeah.
and they could do their remote, so it wasn't like, I mean, you were isolated anyway, so you
Yeah.
really didn't think about what does this look like on the other side of the pandemic,
Yes.
right? And they got there and realized that, oh my God, I'm stuck out in the middle of nowhere. And but It's hard to come back to California after you done gave up your apartment and houses and all that
Yes,
sort of stuff.
indeed it is. Indeed it is. Indeed it is.
So I'm gonna say, along with everything else, when you make that, do your homework, be thorough.
Yeah, a very good point.
Yeah.
Very good point.
Be thorough, because it might not be what you think it is. Grass may not be greener on that other side.
Okay. Okay. All right. So
Yeah.
I will read your bio again, and then how about if I
Okay.
give you the last word?
All right. Sounds good.
Okay. Hey, everyone. We have gone through 5 or 6 questions here. Crystal was kind enough to hang out here and go through them with me. So, yay for her. So, here's her bio. Crystal Mitchell is a business coach and consultant. She's the CEO of Mitchell Business Solutions. She's the co-director of Recycling Black Dollars, the co-host of The Business Zone with Crystal and Gilbert, another weekly online radio show. She's an instructor at Mount San Antonio Community College, a certified network for teaching entrepreneurship instructor and let me put that in there, and a QuickBooks Pro Advisor financial strategist. Crystal, it has been a pleasure as always. Please take the last word.
All righty. Good questions. I mean, again, we don't always ask all these questions of an expert, and so a lot of times we make our decisions with lack of information. So always do your research. Always ask the person that is your rep or or the expert, the guru in the area, so that you can make sure you're making the right decisions for your family, because retirement is a big one, because you're on a fixed income when you leave that job,
Right.
and you might not have other resources that are coming in. So your decision is could be a life-changing decision.
Very true. Very true. And with
Mhm.
that, I'm going to say thank you, and we'll see you next time, everybody. Have a good
All
week.
righty. Bye bye, everyone. Have a great one.